How's it going, lads? We're back again for the 318 matchmaking. We are here, we are ready, we're back again. Last night was a bit kind of mad. We obviously saw the retirement of Diamond, a lot of upsets, I think 4-0 for the underdogs. Big sells for Akkas, but we'll talk about it as I get into this. So look, let's not waste any time, let's get down to the first one. So first we're going to start with Jardis, big crispy Carly. She's a hard one to pick because again, both these women's divisions are complete wastelands. One win. She has 2 wins now by 2 finishes. Great knee. Absolutely crumbled Nicole Cararley or Killarley, whatever her name was. Absolutely crumbled her with the knee down the middle. 2 finishes in that division gets you a bit high. Now what I do is just rematch her against Anesta, basically a woman she's already fought and lost to. Both female fighters already lost this person. I think that's a smart one. Next I into Bruno Ferreira. Now for me, Bruno Ferreira probably shouldn't get a big fight based off Jackson McIrvine just because it was the start of his real career. But what I'm actually going to say is I'm going to give him Izzy. Now I know this sounds very strange because he isn't really ranked, but I think he's very close, top 15. Kind of want to see the UFC. Maybe they think the same to test how washed Izzy actually is. I don't think he's washed at all. I think he's been getting very, very hard matchups, but I could see them giving him an outside top 15. I think Bruno Ferreira might be the right one because of the power in his hand. Next move into Ryan Spann. Now Ryan Spann, a heavyweight. He's taken out Lucas Bresky, and okay, fair enough, very well done, great submission. It's hard to really say, as I actually predicted it perfectly that he'll go for that Superman guillotine that he has that no one gets out of. But to be honest, I think either Kennedy or the Blob, Shamil Agiz. I think Kennedy would just be a fun back and forth scrap on the feet. I don't think Kennedy would get taken down as easy. You know, he also submitted his last one, but I don't think he'll get taken down as easy. And Shamil Agiz, the Blob, I'm kind of curious, could you test his 15-minute cardio? That's notoriously terrible. I'm kind of curious, could you actually be able to test it? Hits the mat, I don't know who wins it on the ground. In the fucking power standpoint, I still have to pick Ryan Spann, but it's hard to know with his chin. Next, we move into Jimmy Coote. Now, Jimmy Coote has probably already made his call out. Perfect call out by him. Dustin Jacoby. Don't have anything to say. Kickboxer versus him. Maybe on the Perth card. He's calling for Perth. A lot of Australians want the Perth card. If they can get it going, no fucking argument for me. I think that'd be a great fight. Next we move into Islam Duladov. Now this man just does it for the love of the fucking game. He already has 2 Ferraris. He's a model. He's done Versace, Gucci. He doesn't even have to fight, but he does it because the love of the fucking game. For that, I would like to give him someone who's actually a bit more seasoned, just to see, does this 100% finish rate stay? I would either give him Chris Curtis or Vicente Luque. Now, maybe I'm putting Vicente Luque in an early grave because Vicente Luque can definitely get finished. Chris Curtis has shown a bit more of a strong chin with hard wrestling. I'm curious if you could put these two together just to see what would happen. Next, we'll move into Arthur Gutierrez. Arthur Gutierrez put in a great finish. We have another Cameroonian wrecking ball coming into the sport who has absolute dynamite finishing. I would either give Bo Nickel or Jusung Park. Iron Turtle. Now, Iron Turtle and Park to me are both the grapplers I think that he needs to face to really test his grappling. Now, again, I'm not saying they wouldn't just walk in and blast him in the first round like he has done to everyone else, but it would be an interesting one to see. Park's chin is a bit questionable, and Bo Nickel has quit in any real adversary, so it'll be interesting to see what the UFC pull it. They obviously don't care about Bo Nickel anymore. Next we go into, let me just call him Vert. I think his name's like Vert Guskov or something like that. Let's call him Vert. Vert, I'd personally give him a rematch against Danny Barlow, as I don't even think he won that fight. I do think Prado was robbed. He made too many mistakes in the 3rd round to be able to take that fight. The spinning shit just wasn't working. Now, Prado didn't really do much with his grappling, but he held top position and landed some at the end of the fight. Strange robbery, in my opinion. I think you kind of still treat this as a loss, or maybe something that won't really grab any headlines. With a full camp, he still looks terrible, so I would be curious to see what they're actually going to do. I'd put Danny Barlow. Personally, I go Brendan Allen. It's either going to be Paulo Costa or Roma de Odze. It's hard to say with this division. If that card isn't in Louisiana, I don't think anyone cheers Brendan Allen. I don't think he has any actual fans in MMA. He's one of the most dislikable fighters on planet Earth. If this isn't in the US, if it isn't in Louisiana, even the US probably don't even like the lad because he is very unlikable. Do think the judges got that scorecard a bit wrong with 30-27. Thought Marvin Vettori took 1 round. Marvin Vettori is clearly just fighting out of emotion and just put up the same performance that we saw in his last fight against Roma de Odze. he has retard strength and just gets hit straight in the jaw, and that's it. Next we move on to Vinicius Oliveira. Now Vinicius Oliveira, to me, either gets Mario Bautista or Tito Vera. I don't think there's a lot else in the division to really push him up just yet. It was a sloppy performance, a weird performance. I'd like to see him fight someone who will actually maybe hit him a lot more. Tito Vera could be the option, because Vinicius walks with his hands down to his side. You do that against a top title contender, you could be finished. But look, we'll move ahead to Michael Johnson. This is the first big upset. Daniel Zenhuber looked fucking awful in that fight. I'm not sure what happened. Nixon is having a nightmare. The S-man of MMA is absolutely fucked. I don't know, like, they were trying to tell him, you know, to keep the kicks going. He kept the kicks going, just nothing straight, nothing actually landed from him. Michael Johnson was a lot faster, I think a lot of people expected, and landed with a lot more power. Now, for Michael Johnson, I'd either give him Juan Saint Denis or Money Macano. I think you give him two people that are dropping out of the top 15. I don't think there's anything else to really throw towards Michael Johnson. It's a hard one of 40 to really throw him back into the ranks. I don't think the UFC want to do it, but if you could squeeze the top 15 out, Juan Saint Denis or Money Macano, go ahead. I think he gives a very, very hard challenge to Juan Saint Denis and Money Macano for his power in his hands. But we'll move ahead to Pitbull. Now I knew Pitbull would be Ige. I put this in my predictions. I do believe you give him Josh Emmett. I don't think there's another fight for Pitbull. Pitbull clearly, as DC said on commentary, has his moments, but then he freezes and doesn't pull the trigger. It's kind of strange, but if he pulls the trigger when you're in front of him, as you could see in the Dan Ige fight, he can land with some power and some combinations. He just needs to let the hands go. Next we will move on into D-Rod. Now D-Rod, another massive one. I assume this is probably Kevin Holland's call to stop taking or stop trying to take 5 fights in a year. You basically just lost the top 15 fight that you shouldn't have lost at all. There was no reason to lose that fight. You just lost it because you wanted to break this record. I have a feeling that the whole division could be D-Rod. That fight was fucking dreadful. D-Rod still has absolutely chronic cardio. I think someone on chemotherapy would have more cardio than that lad, and it doesn't make any sense to me because Kevin Holland gassed even more than him, and D-Rod has notoriously bad cardio and absolutely dreadful. Still holds the power, but if I'm going to be honest, I'd either give D-Rod. This is going to seem a bit strange, but Rocky Leon Edwards or Gilbert Burns. I think you gave him one of the people who are falling out of the division. Leon Edwards has looked terrible in his last few fights. It's hard to know if he's washed. I would give him the opportunity just to see if he's hit unk status like D-Rod. And then Burns, he's unfortunately on a 4-fight losing streak. He's unk status. You have to kind of give him someone who's fallen out. He would smoke D-Rod as well. So I really hope that they give him Burns, so we can see Gilbert Burns finally get a win back in MMA. Next we move into Costa, and again I'm just going to say Allen or maybe an Izzy rematch. I don't think there's anything else, but the Eraser looks fucking brilliant. That's the classic Eraser, that's Secret Juice, that's the troll on Twitter everyone knows. That's the man who comes in, you're scared to fight because the Eraser will put you on your hole if you stand in front of him, and that's why he done to Roman Kobilov. Next we move in the Max. Now again, for the BMF, I don't think there's many fighters but Dan Hooker, the New Zealand psychopath. I don't think there's anyone else to really put there. We don't want grappling in the BMF fights. We want people who will stand in front of people and stand and fucking bang for 25 minutes. No point to putting in a fucking shitty grappler. No one cares. It's not the point of the belt. I was going to say Paddy, but I think he'd wrestle too much to really make any point. Chandler's another okay shout. I don't think there's anyone else in the division. Taporia's just going to walk in and KO someone. Not that interesting. We want wars with the BMF, so I'm going to give Dan Hooker. Next, we will move into Dustin, and I want to just say thank you so much to the Diamond on his retirement. I am going to give him a full thing here. The UFC showed him a lot of love, as he said he felt seen, and that's completely correct. Not many people in the UFC quit at the top, but not many people also get to go to their home state of Louisiana and get the main event in their final thing. Thank you so much to the Diamond. Have a happy retirement. The UFC will miss him, and it's going to be strange not to say Dustin Poirier is going to be fighting again. But right, we'll move into the losers. Now, the losers is where it gets a bit tricky. Starting with Nicole Caligari. I don't really know how to say her name, but Nicole here. I'm going to leave a question mark because I genuinely don't know. 2 losses inside this barren wasteland of a division probably should get you cut for the lack of actual matchups you can give her now. I'm going to say cut, but if you really want to squeeze a fight, Lipski is the only one I think makes sense. But we'll move ahead to Jackson McIrvine. He's another strange one. I'm just going to give him Rob Zilla. Rob Zilla already lost on the card. I don't think Jackson really should be punished too much. It's his first fight. Got grappled pretty easily. He's a tall guy who clearly isn't really used to submissions, because that armbar was obviously going to happen when he's a lot taller than his opponent. But look, we'll move ahead. Lucas Bresky. Usually I would say cut someone like this who's lost in the heavyweight division, but the heavyweight division is probably in one of its worst states in the UFC in a long time. Even some of the COVID heavyweights are better. So if I'm going to be honest, I'd maybe throw down either El Wabdi, Tafa, or Dantel Mays. I think some of these fights could be interesting. El Wabdi has some of the worst IQ I've seen in the octagon. Tafa's terrible, and Dantel Mays is Dantel Mays. You could see an interesting fight with some of these, maybe. Petrachnio. I think Ivan Erslan might actually finally get his first win in the UFC if they put this fight on. Petrachnio isn't terrible. He has a strong chin, but I can see this being loser leaves, like loser goes to China, loser leaves and goes back to Europe. This is basically whoever loses goes to KSW or Octagon, and that's basically it. Or actually Cage Warriors as well. I mean, let me not forget to mention the Cage Warriors. Fidget Spinner. We'll move to Fidget Spinner here, who will be, I think personally, either gets Harris or Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams' last performance against Alexander Gustaf was fucking awful, or Andres Gustaf. So I do think you kind of have to test what Chaos is on. Fidget didn't really have the worst performance in the thing. He got finished pretty quickly, but that's Islam Jewel as power, so that's really not much of a shock. Next we'll move into Robert Vidalin, who I've already put down to fight McAven. I don't think there's another fight for him. We'll just move ahead with Rob Zilla because I've already talked about him. Prado was robbed. I'd maybe slide a Kevin Jerzet fight in France to give Kevin Jerzet a chance. Kickboxer Prado might not deal well with striking. It's hard to say realistically. He hasn't been great in his UFC career, and I don't really think there's much hype behind this fight, but it could happen. Next we move into Marvin Vettori. Now, when Marvin Vettori isn't fighting with emotion behind it, and RIP to his brother, I'm obviously not going to say anything bad about the performance. He was clearly fighting very emotionally. It was the same fight as Roma. The odds I fight kind of just stands in front and just goes trade for trade. I do think Kelvin Gastelum is probably the only interesting one. Tested the chins, tested the retard, strength in the chins, and the wrestling. Marvin Vettori is extremely good wrestling, as he showed in that fight. I don't really know how he just always switches it and gets straight back up. Would interesting to see him against Kelvin Gastelum. Next, going to Kyler Phillips. Now, Kyler Phillips is a very interesting fighter because I predicted perfectly what he was going to do. He done the exact same against Rob Font. He wins the first round with mad aggression, then just runs around the octagon, the exact same as Yusuf Zahal. Just runs away from his opponent and doesn't plant his feet or even try to really throw. It's just moving backwards, trying to throw, and lands at nothing, and then runs around the octagon. So, with that being said, Patchy Mix I think is the right one. See, can Cement Mixer kind of get around it? See, can he actually, plant his feet and try to fight? Because if Kyler Phillips can just run away from him, easy win for Kyler Phillips. But we'll see, can Patchy Mix change something? With Daniel Zellhuber being as bad as he was, selling a lot of bets for people, I almost threw him in my parlay. I didn't because I thought the line was crazy. I was right. But I think the only real fight that makes any sense is Austin Hubbard. I think Daniel Zellhuber deserves to go straight back down the card. That was a terrible performance. He's already beat Austin Hubbard by decision. The fight was cancelled. They already tried to set the fight up. Might as well just go for it again. Austin Hubbard will probably beat him just because he has better wrestling. Daniel Zellhuber's stock is very, very low with the majority of people. You could maybe put him in International Fight Week or Noche Libre, like the Mexican card. That's it. No one really has any hype for the man anymore. He's down on hype, he's down on aura, and that's really all it is. The man's a bit fucked. Next we go into Ige. Now, Dan Ige I knew was going to lose to Pitbull. I predicted this. It's not much of a shock. Every time Dan Ige fights someone inside the top 15 or someone actually good, he loses. I think the most obvious fight for him, or maybe the one that makes the most sense, is whenever Giga's actually fucking available. Giga Chikadze would be an interesting one to see both them go ahead. George, I do have two champions now, technically, so there is a bit of an interest in George and MMA. Of course, they still have Roman odds. If Giga kept back on his horse, back on top, we could see a push, but next we go into Kevin Holland, the person who sold my parlay, probably sold a lot of parlays. That is very clearly an indication to not try fight 5 times in 1 year. He was fucking dreadful. That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. He gets rocked by D-Rod, but then rocks D-Rod in the third, and someone ends up on his back in the last round when he could have won the fight. No one knows. No one understands it. But look, I'll give him Colby Chaos Covington. I don't think there's any other thing. Colby's unk status, Colby's washed. He looked terrible in his last few fights. Kevin looked shit in his last fight. Let's just put two unks, two shit cunts against each other and see what rolls, see what happens. I don't really think there's any other reason. No one cares about Covington. Kevin Holland will have to turn the shit talking to about over 9,000. He's going to have to go to DEFCON 5 with the shit talking to get everyone to forget about this last performance. I don't think there's anything else you can say. I think that's just the way to go. And next in moving to Roman Kopylov, I just think Edmund Shabazian, I don't know, I think Roman Kopylov, I've always said he was overrated, didn't think the man was that good. Been proven very right. Paulo Costa's a great fighter, but Paulo Costa came in, knocked his block off. His corner telling him that he had a great first round is probably the most fucking retarded thing I've ever heard. I can't understand it. You sit there, watch your fighter get absolutely battered for a round and go, yeah, you followed the game plan perfectly. It's like, you got your mouthpiece knocked out by a right hook because fucking Paulo Costa nearly killed you. But sure, look, you had a great first round. Keep it going. It's like, yeah. Sit there, Roma, bud. Whoop. And obviously, the loser was Dustin, but he's obviously not going to have a fight. So that's pretty self-explanatory. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button. I will be back again for another numbered card. 319 doesn't even have a co-main for the minute. It's to be announced. So we will have to see what that's going to be. But yeah, we will come back on 319. Anyways, if you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button or hit subscribe, and I'll see you next one. Peace.